Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is David Palmer, Leo King, and welcome to Deep Astrology, your weekly astrology forecast where I channel the astrology to you, and then we go deep into the charts. Brought to you by Astro Gold on iOS, Android, and you can also get it on your MacBook or MacBook Pro or your iMac, whatever you got Mac. But if you're on PC, make sure that you check out Solar Fire. Now, this is for the week of May 21st through the 27th of 2019. We're in Gemini now, so I'm going to talk really fast. This is definitely going to bring a lighter load, but I am going to say we are still in a heavy time about choices in life. Yes, the sun's now in Gemini. Yes, Mercury is in Gemini, its home sign, and it is flying over 2 degrees a day. It's fastest. It has just made its Cassini point right when it came into Gemini, over the sun into Gemini, which is ironic because in May of 2012, on the 19th to 20th, if you followed that south node solar eclipse, that was at 0 Gemini. Last time I saw any weird Cassini point there was at that time. So I might throw some crazy crap at you, but what happened in your life at that time, May of 2012, into that Venus eclipse retrograde cycle that happened in June of 2012? Kind of interesting. We might be replaying some stories there. Anyway, we've got a lot of energy that is finally about understanding what the hell has been going on, because I have told you all for over this like 5-6 month period that Mercury has not been happy. It has gone through so much. And remember, with Mercury, it is Hermes. It goes into both worlds. It is a neutral planet. But when Mercury's in Gemini, it's happy because it has a lot of information and it just delivered it to the sun. And what is all this information? This last 6 months was crazy. I know what's coming up 6 months from now. We need to figure out a bunch of shit. I think that's the best way that I can describe this week, is because, one, now that we got all this lighter energy, there is still some heavy stuff. We've got Saturn and Pluto in the south node meeting with the moon. And so there's this really intense moment here that's coming on Wednesday, which is going to have a lot of other aspects going on about these major choices in our life. But we need information first. We need conversations. We need to understand what is going on. And we haven't had that. We've been in such an emotional and processing from a physical sense. It's been all earth and water and a little bit of fire with Jupiter, but it's been just earth and water, earth and water, earth and water, you know, and it's muddy. It's been muddy. This air, usually you think like the fire is going to come in and dry things out. Actually, the air is what we need to kind of like bring some of that, I guess you could call it drying some of these things up. And especially in Gemini, it's much more lighter. It's much more, I don't want to say disconnected, but I do want to say that it does have much more of a logical sense of things, like, well, if this doesn't make sense, why am I doing that? So we haven't had that at all throughout 2019. Like, I'm just going to be very real. Only when in February, there was a minor 2 weeks there where we had Mercury and the sun in Aquarius. But that is Aquarius, where it's almost like a complicated situation. We just have been looking for simplicity. And the simplicity is going to be the answer to so many things. But there's still too many emotional weird things going on that we are going to bring up today, especially when we talk about Mars and Cancer and its major, major aspects that are going to be happening at the same time that we're going to be going through this moon, south node Pluto, Wednesday, and leaving on Thursday. So let's talk about that Mars. Okay, Mars and Cancer, remember, is at its fall position, but it's got the north node or Rahu there. So there's actually some amplification there. And Mars this week is going to make a nice sextile to Uranus. Now, this is good because, one, Uranus is definitely going to be like, we can go to a new, different place that is a much more comfortable and better situation for what we feel. But Mars is going to square Chiron in Aries, which means it might not look the way that you think it's going to look. Or you might be confronting a lot of emotional things this week, especially now that the sun's in Gemini, and especially with Mercury flying 2 and almost 2.5 degrees a day. Just phew, 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 phew. So much information coming so fast. But with Mars and Cancer, emotionally, we identify with these emotions there, and that's why it's at its fall position, because unfortunately, if you're so caught up on an identity about the emotion about something, and it doesn't go the way that you want to emotionally, it's very hard to find the confidence and the courage to do it. But with the North Node here, with Rahu and Mars, especially in Eastern philosophy, yeah, it's intense. It definitely adds some spice to things. Huh? Are we rubbing? We might be rubbing. A little intense, you know what I mean? We'll bring it down. So anyway, there is so much going on with this intensity, but it squares Chiron and Aries. Chiron and Aries is not going to show up the way that you want it to look. Okay? Chiron and Aries to me is like this weird little figure, like as a kid, or you know what? Chiron and Aries to me is like Christmas morning. And you're like, it's like Christmas Story, right? You think you're going to get the Red Ryder, BB gun. And really, you get like, I forgot what he got. What was it? He did get it, but he got that Easter Bunny costume that they made him put on. And he's like, this is just not what I wanted. And I look gross. This is Chiron and Aries. Like, we want these ideas and these things, especially with Chiron and the Sun and Mercury making some great aspects this week. But these great aspects are helping us understand, okay, it doesn't look the way I want to. Let me be vulnerable. Let me be humble about that. But let me look at this Uranus aspect that's in a great aspect to Mars and go, you know what? Maybe there is this new thing that's better, and it doesn't maybe look the way that I thought it would look. So this is like eradicating this egoic identification about emotional definition of what we want it to look like and feel like, when there is a whole other idea, a whole other way that's better for us, that has actually more tools, more support than we even realize. And so really with this Mars-Uranus, that's a big, major, radical turn. And with the Chiron, it looks like, uh-oh, I don't know if this turn's going to be good if I make this choice, and especially with all this Sun and Mercury in Gemini, we start going, oh my gosh, and with that heaviness of Saturn and Pluto, with the moon there, they're both like, I called it live on Instagram this week. I said, Pluto is like Al Pacino in Scarface, and we've got Saturn there, which is like Mike Tyson against this boxing match against Mars and Rahu, which is like, I called it Matt Damon and Team America, the little puppet, And there's no way that you think that little Matt Damon puppet's going to win. Believe it or not, it will. This turn that we're making is extreme. The choices we have to make are extreme. But that moon, unfortunately, is at detriment, remember, in Capricorn. That's why, I don't know if you know this, but that's why Benjamin Franklin did not want the Declaration of Independence signed on the 2nd of July, which ironically enough is when we're going to have a solar eclipse, but was July 4th. When the moon went into Aquarius. Because that moon, when it's in Capricorn, especially Pluto being there, Saturn there, it's very demanding. No, you need to feel this way, or you have to go through this feeling, blah, 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 blah. You have to, And it's like, do I really have to do this? Do I really, what? This is Mars and Cancer. This is what I feel better with? Sure. I might have to deal with an emotional situation. I wanted it to look this way. Chiron and Aries is just this, like, how I want it to look. Go look at all the cars from 1970 through like 76, That was Chiron Aries. Like, go look at them. Weird. I remember when they came out with the 73 Mustang, and I'm like, that thing's a big hunk of beast of metal, you know what I mean? It used to be a real slim car. They went real big and real weird. And that's why they're very unique cars, right? Or any 70s car are kind of unique. But there is that whole aspect of like, it's going to look funky. And so there's nothing wrong with that. We have to almost like learn to appreciate it. Just like, my parents are prodigies of this, they were born in the late 50s, but they went through the 70s in high school. So bell bottoms and long hair and doing that was the Chiron and Aries thing. And even though you look at a picture now and you're like, what the heck were you wearing? There is this aspect of us being like, you know what? Yeah, it doesn't look the way I want to. I'm going to go into this emotionally and go, if it doesn't feel that it's really feeling right, it doesn't feel like I want to, and I don't need to feel like I'm being demanded or persuaded or this over-integrity element of taking away my emotional truth, which is what makes us human, losing our humanity. And now that's where the fine line is in our belief systems, with Jupiter retrograde at 21 degrees now, starting to make a 3-degree orb to the square to Neptune. This is about our belief systems and whether or not we're going to get caught up into what we define as ethics and morals. And that's why that's happening around the world. But on a deeper scale, that's happening within yourself about the choices you're making. Now, the number one ethical thing to do in life truly is to follow what feels good, what is good for you, to feel joy and to feel positive, and to feel safe and to feel comfortable in doing things that don't exceed the limitations of losing your soul, losing your humanity. Now, that becomes very complicated when we're dealing with business, relationships, all parts of our life where we get to these positions where it's like, well, is it bad if I don't do this? Is it bad if I do this? And I don't want to do it? With Pluto and Saturn there, they can be very persuady because they are very harsh on that moon and south node. Because it's an illusion of what we call ethical standards, I guess you could say, by almost not following what emotionally feels right. But we are all going swiftly out of nowhere into a whole other world. Because with this Sun, Mercury, and Gemini, with Venus as well in Taurus in its home sign, which this week it's going to make some interesting aspects. It's going to sessy square over to Jupiter. Okay? It's going to make this weird aspect to Jupiter. And that weird aspect is kind of trying to be like, okay, we just can't sit around and just open up these new doors with just kind of holding on to, whatever we want to hold on to. We have to hold on to what is the emotional identification now in our life that makes sense, what logically makes sense, which actually feels lighter and what actually gives us the truth. Now, truth can be done with, Jupiter aspects. Truth can be done with Gemini aspects. Truth can be done with Pluto aspects. So truth kind of runs around the astrology community like it's just kind of thrown around. But truth is data. Truth is things that make sense. That's why in alchemy, it is called Hermetic alchemy. That is why astrology is from Hermetic alchemy. That's why Mercury and Gemini is truth. Because it is not afraid to say there is no right or no wrong. There is no dark. There is no light, I guess you could say, because it is in the neutral position of seeing both sides and communicating both sides. And so this is a very beautiful week for us to see that we need to put down this whole, I am required to do this a certain way that goes against my feelings, and be honest and be truthful. And the number one way that you could tell that something is not feeling right now in your life, whether it's a job or it's a business situation that's weird, or it's a relationship, or it's a financial situation, or it's something that's just spiritual, whatever it might be, it's about truth and communication. And especially when you got this whole Venus, Jupiter, weird, sessy square, this is just a weird thing, all right? Because this is bringing us to these weird points. They're in their home signs. And that's a weird battle. Remember, sessy squares are odd. Okay? Because one, they're not, it's earth, fire, and it's fixed mutable. And they're in their home signs. They're very different. Jupiter is wanting to expand and explore, and Venus and Taurus is like, I don't want to explore. I already know what I want. I already am holding on to it, and this is in my backpack, and it's in my back pocket. I'm keeping it here. So that brings up at the same time this Mars-Uranus saying, hey, there's this new direction that's better for you in your life. It's a new paradise. Okay. But, oh, wait, hold on. It's not the way I wanted it to look. I'm squaring Chiron and Aries. I wanted it to look this way. I wanted my feelings to be this way. I'm attached to this position in this way. And I can't let go of it. I keep trying to fix it. Well, remember, everybody, Uranus is semi-square Neptune. It has been for over a year. This is where this neurotic sense of fixing things that make no sense is the most I'm not going to say that word anymore. People get me on that one. Can't say anything anymore, but you know, it is mercurial, right? It's like about truth. That's how you know people are frauds, is when they can't just speak truth. And I think that this is a moment in our life where when we are in stupid positions because we are being dumb to ourselves, because we think we can radically fix something that makes no spiritual sense, or if it has a fog around it, it has some sort of weird deceptive energy around it, you're not getting all the information about it, run the other way. Like literally, bye-bye, that's not it. You might even save your own life by doing that. And I think that this is where we're at now. With Mercury going to sextile Uranus, with Mercury going to sextile Chiron, and semi-sextile over to Uranus, Mercury is holding down this line of facts saying, all right, it might not look the way you want to, but that's because, look at this. Like, here's all the data. That's why it looks funky. So that's here to help us. The sun, this week is coming into awesome spots, but it will make a semi-sextile to Uranus. So it, as well, is going to make a semi-sextile over to Mars. The sun and Mercury, which are, in astrology and just in our whole entire understanding of spirituality through astrology, or I would call it evolutionary astrology, is the light and the communication of that light. And light is information. And so the sun is in a weird place. It's got Mars in its fall in Cancer that's emotionally like trying to define itself. And over here to the left, it's got Uranus and Taurus saying, hey, yeah, let's go to this better paradise and let's just try and fix things and go to new directions. But it's complicated with that semi-square over to Neptune, which the sun knows it's getting ready to square Neptune too. So it's like, I need to figure this out before we go into this weird shit, before we come into June 21st, when we come into the Cancer and we start this eclipse cycle, and Mars is about to start to battle with Saturn and Pluto, and also Mercury, because Mercury is fast. 2.5 degrees right now a day. Holy mother. Why do you think Mercury is ruled by Gemini? When it's in this space and it's Kazini at the very beginning of a sign, it is flying. It is the fastest little dog you've ever seen. So look at it this way. It is so easy right now to get caught up in ideas of how it should look and how emotions can actually disrupt our determination, our willpower, and our ability to move into a much more comfortable life, because we are trying to control our emotions in such a way, and especially with Pluto, Saturn, and Capricorn in the South Node, to where we are the ones that feel like that we're in control of our life, that we're the ones that have the control, and then when it comes to this emotionally, how I emotionally want it to feel and to look like. My bank account needs to look like this or I'll feel comfortable. This relationship situation needs to look like this or I will not feel comfortable. My job needs to look like this. I need to be getting all these emails. I need this many customers. Because when you start adding in the Gemini thing now, with the first time, this is the darkest we've been in what I have been researching in astrology in a long time of mental clarity. Especially with that Mercury retrograde that happened in Pisces, the craziest one that will ever go down in history, with Chiron leaving Pisces and with Mercury coming over Neptune, stopping on Neptune with a semi-square over to Uranus. I'm telling you folks, this is the first time we're actually now, this whole emotional identification of how you will feel comfortable and how it's got to look is actually not the way to paradise. You have to face the fear of like, well, I guess that's not the way it's going to be, and learn to accept it and go towards this better direction now. And I want to go deep into the charts with you right now to help you understand this, because if you actually see the moon will leave out of this Capricorn thing this week, we'll have the Mars squares, okay? And then Mars will come off the square to Chiron, and will come off the Uranus sextile. And then we've got some energy to finally start to see some clarity. And the moon will connect with the sun and Mercury in Aquarius and give us the whole enchilada of understanding really fast. So even when it looks terrifying in a way, because of the misinformation or the fear, or the information is so clear. And anybody that is holding information from you, or anything that is looking deceptive, or anything that is trying to act out in a radical way, run. Because information is just truth. And if you can't handle the truth, or you can't handle information like Mars square Chiron, Mars sextile Uranus, here is what it is. And if anybody can't handle that and doesn't want to deal with that, because this brings up where Mars and Rahu in Cancer, the North Node, is all about this over amplification of anger and frustration, and I got to make it my way, and the ego. And this is a whole Chiron and Aries theme anyway. But it's like, if you're expressing however you're expressing, and you can't handle that expression and take it and find some sort of, okay, let me process this. You know, if you're willing to just burn bridges and just piece the hell out and also not communicate back, guess what? That's what's not of integrity. That's not good for anybody's emotion, because misidentification is coming through no understanding of information. And this is about information. Information. I used to get my information from Sesame Street. Can anybody guess my favorite Sesame Street character? That's going to be a good one to try and guess. What do I have to say before we go into this? I just want to say, this is awesome, even though it's a very major turn. On my Instagram, I put up a picture, and because I jet ski race, you got to remember, it doesn't matter what you race, but especially in jet skiing, it's water. And this is Mars in Cancer, and it's coming into that Uranus where we have to pivot. And as a jet ski racer, when I go into a turn, and you can ask other jet skiers that run in the same class, we are going into that turn at 72, 73 miles an hour, okay? When you go into that turn, you have to go at it, and it might not look the same every time because of the water. So on the first lap, usually if you're in first, it's flat, it's easy. But 4, 5, 6 laps in, 10 minutes going, and the water's all over the place and it's choppy, holy cow, going into that turn that fast, sometimes you have to back off, but you can't back off on a jet ski. You know why? Because if you let go of it, it won't turn. It's like the back of it is like a hose. So that's what turns it, is the hose. It's called a jet pump. So I use the analogy of going into it, and you can't let go off the throttle, even though it looks scary as hell. And oh my gosh, the wave, and oh, there's a guy trying to pass me, and it's water in my face. You got to do it because you know this is the turn you need to make in your life right now, and you got to go at it. And when you hook it and you get that in there and you give it that gas, trust me, you always make it through. And I don't want to use my Days of Thunder reference, but I'll just use it real quick, or Top Gun, because it's the same producer, same actor. But in Top Gun and in Days of Thunder, Tom Cruise always comes to the fact, one, in Top Gun, his plane crashes and he has to get back into the plane. Oh my God. He's freaked out. In Days of Thunder, he's a NASCAR driver. Cocky, just won his first, 5 races out of 6 in a row. He's the hot shot now. Goes through a big crash, hammers through it, boom. It's like PTSD, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I've done this before. I've tried to make a big turn. It didn't work out. This time it's going to work out, folks. Remember, the North Node is in Cancer. Last year, it was the South Node and Mars retrograde. We are healing our last year Mars retrograde wounds of what we thought we could figure out in a crazy turn, and we didn't. We spun out, or we got hit, or we went through craziness. Right now, this next whole 30 days is about making the big pivot and confronting that pivot and knowing that we make it through. All right. Well, did anybody guess? What's been the number one guess? Mm. Really? Sprite? So I was a Big Bird fan, I'll admit, but I was more of a Kermit the Frog guy. Because Kermit always got the chick. He's the only one who like rolled around with the chick. Kermit's cool. And I liked, what was the guy in the trash? Oscar the Grouch. Yeah. Yeah, so I was going to say Oscar the Grouch mixed with Kermit with a little Big Bird, but Big Bird would get annoying to me. Kermit never got annoying to me because he always was so happy, and Big Bird was a little too big. And Oscar the Grouch, he needed that little Scorpio in there, like energy, you know what I mean? So, and I like the way that it, that was a good show. All right, it is May 21st, 2019. Happy birthday, Geminis. Look at this, the sun in Gemini. Oh, with Mercury in Gemini. This is actually, the sun and Mercury are both happy. Why? Because the sun is in Gemini, which, remember, the sun and Mercury are best friends. They are best friends. Why? Because every Leo needs an audience, and Mercury needs attention to talk. And both of them are right next to each other, and that is the messenger of the gods, because Mercury is so close to the sun. And so with this in Gemini now, we are finally, for the first time in 6 months, and I will just, do the little thing again for anybody that's new. Mercury went retrograde here at the end of 2018 and through January in its opposite sign of Sag, where it's at detriment. And then it went through all this crazy crap in Capricorn. Then it went through Aquarius for only a couple weeks. Then it went through the longest over 60-day retrograde. Then it came into Aries and had to square all this crap over here. And then it went through Taurus, where it went through Uranus for a second, but then it was like, oh man, like still it's slower here in Taurus. And boom, it has finally reached Gemini. It will have its big battle, though, with Jupiter, but that's coming up. And you should get my Confronting Your Fears video, which is available on highvibe.tv. So, good news, we're about to figure things out. But it's a major turn, and it's going to be starting on Wednesday. But here on Tuesday, it's the preparation for this turn. We don't know where everything is yet. The good news, the moon in Capricorn is making good aspects to Uranus and Venus, which has made us feel good about coming into this turn. But there is still an unsurety. There is still an unsurety. And I would call that Ceci square of Venus and, not Ceci square, but Ceci quadrant, actually, sorry, of Venus and Jupiter. And so this is where this unsurety is coming if we really believe it's the best move for us and if we have the ability to do it, and we do. And you got to realize, though, that the moon connecting with Venus in its home sign and with Uranus there and Taurus, even though it's at fall, is giving this bigger picture, that this kind of comforting element of like, we can figure this out, and you want to feel better, so let's do that. Because the moon's now coming into, if we look at Danger Zone, that's my favorite song, by the way, Kenny Loggins, Highway to, and this is definitely a very highway to the danger zone kind of week. But does that mean that it turns into danger? No, you're just going into the intensity of highway to the danger zone. But to be honest with you, that's where, in life, in my opinion, that's where life is. Going at 500 miles an hour in a jet. Especially as Mercury's going 2 degrees a day. You guys are going to laugh. So let's just go now. We're just going to go to Wednesday because it's just the preparation for the turn. But here we are on Wednesday, May 22nd. And yeah, look at this. Mercury's now already at 257 going to 3. Like, it is jumping fast. But look at this. We are finally here. Mars, 4 degrees. Uranus, 4 degrees. So we have Mars and Uranus sextile. So the pivot is happening. So it's almost like making a turn, right? So like here we are in our life and we're making a turn. And this is that pivot point in our lives. And it's got big choices about, this new skill of knowing our best emotional path and the flexibility of life. I think that if I were to look at this from a world stage and a more collective conscious stage, since that's been my message since I started my channel over 7 years ago, was illuminating the collective consciousness. And why I do this show about all of us is because this point and this pivot, remember that Mars in Cancer has not sextiled Uranus in Taurus since the last time Uranus was in Taurus in the 30s. So this is a unique pivot. And this pivot is with two planets in their fall positions. Cancer is Mars' fall and Taurus is Uranus' fall. So this is a very insecure pivot, and it's an insecure pivot at a time when the sun is here with Mercury. Look at that, exact sextiles, semi-sextiles. This is amazing because we have to learn to be adaptable. We have to learn to kind of take the information as it comes. That's why I'm saying if information isn't coming to you, there's something funky there. There is something weird there going on. There's something behind the surface going on because this corner is already nerve-rattling. But it's also a necessary thing in our life that we all have to do. And it's about taking the data, and if we take the data and we're smart and we go, yeah, this doesn't make sense, this doesn't make sense, this doesn't make sense, this makes sense, this makes sense, then we are able to go, okay, I see the data, and this is where Jupiter comes in. Even though it's in Ceci quadrant over to Venus, okay, which is a very weird 135, angle, okay, it's very, very funky. But what's interesting about it is we are at this position to where we are learning that once we got the data, then we have to learn to believe. But Jupiter is retrograde, and it is in squares to Neptune. So it's like, this is where we are an insecure city, which is, I think, the best way to describe a Uranus and Taurus transit at the very beginnings. Testing your self-worth, testing your ability to manifest the life that feels the best for you. It's insecure times. There's no understanding of how it's going to go. You can only work off the data of what doesn't make sense, and you have to believe, and anything that feels deceptive or doesn't feel like it's coming straight at you with full information, ask. And if it doesn't deliver it back to you, there's your answer. So that includes in your own life. I'm having an issue with whatever. Ask, or put out the feeler. If it comes back, it comes back. Boom, okay, I got some information, I gotta believe, and I gotta go with this corner, and I gotta follow my emotions. And I don't need to do it in a way, because with this now Moon, Saturn, Pluto, South Node, which I'm going to credit Michael Luton again, who really is focusing a lot of people and helping people out understand this occultation of the moon, because the moon is crossing over and blocking out in its detriment with the South Node, because remember, the nodes are the nodes of the moon. These are the ecliptic nodal aspect parts. These are basically these mathematical positions of where eclipses happen. And to have the moon cross this, it's extremely sensitive. And when you got Saturn and Pluto right on top of each other, there is this over persuasion in self, this over feeling that we have to do things an old way, and they're being battered by the emotions. So it's tough. It's not easy to make this turn right now. It's not easy to make this turn because the choices are so big. But really, are they? Is the choice that big when really, what is this turn? This turn is to joy and comfort and to a better life. Okay? That's what this turn is. So are we fooling ourselves by, and especially the shadiness, that's why I like Michael Luton a lot. You can find him on Facebook. Because he's brought up a lot about lots of things, whether it's in the government or whether it's in just your own life or anything that's really shady that's going on in the backdrop, that's Moon, South Node, Pluto, Saturn for control, or trying to control the situation. And if there is no information coming out, especially now that we're finally in an informational time with the Sun and Mercury, you want to pay attention to that, because Sun and Mercury are making their own sesquiquadrate stuff over here, okay? So that's why I'm bringing up a lot of like anything that feels shady, no. Anything that it doesn't matter if it comes out the information, especially with Mars and Rahu, harsh emotionally or radical and unpredictable, or testing your own value of things. It don't matter as long as its communication lines are open with your own self and consciousness, with you and others. It's important right now because it will help make the turn easier, but that might not be there. I'll just be honest with you, it might not be there. And that's where you can't be afraid of the turn, knowing, well, I'm not getting information, the information doesn't make sense, so I'm going to go turn to a more comfortable world and go try new things that make me feel better. But if you're denying the information or willing to, especially because of Venus is learning with this aspect to Jupiter, and with Venus as well, which if you really think about Venus right now, it's in a good spot, but Venus is making that semi-square to Neptune. It's coming off of it. So that's what I'm saying. Anybody who's just pulling away or being deceptive or anything like that, Neptune's very deceptive, right? Especially in semi-square. Like, it's about connecting to people, no matter what the values are, and understanding values to understand and make a better turn. But I feel like there's not going to be a lot of that going on, and that's where you have to have that confidence now in Cancer. And that's why it feels a little bit like Matt Damon as the puppet in Team America. That whole, like, I'm Matt Damon, you know, like, I don't know. Like, they do a very good job with that character. And I think that when you look at the Chiron at 5 degrees now. Now, what is 5 degrees? Well, 5 is Mercury, right? It's the halfway point in numerology as well. It's the middle point. And we're at this weird middle point right now with Chiron. And Chiron is making that square to Mars. So even though, yes, Mars is getting this, okay, let's pivot. As I'm turning the corner now, there's Chiron, right? Like, I was going to draw a weird looking thing. I already have weird drawings, so we'll just draw my version of a weird, like, person, like, with a bikini on. Yay. That's not what I thought I was walking into. What? So any turn where the information, if you're going to go turn into information that you're not getting it, you're going to confront Chiron, and it will definitely not look the way that it wants to. If you're going into turns where the information makes sense for you and everything, it still is going to look a little odd, but at least it's going to help you find empowerment and realize, I'm glad I made this choice. I'm going in the right direction. And so that's all already right here on the 22nd, right here on Wednesday. And it gets more intense, folks, because we do move into Thursday. And Thursday gets intense because look at this. Mars now at 4:56, it'll hit 5, okay? Mars is doing about almost a degree a day. It's like, I think it's doing like about 35 minutes a day. So it was at 4 yesterday, so it'll hit 5. But it's making that square to Chiron. And this square to Chiron is harsh. It's hard because, look at that's within only 6 minutes, and it will reach there that day. And this is while Mercury is making a sextile to Chiron. So we make the turn, we start making the turn, and then bam, we start to see this weird new energy. Well, okay, if we've got the information and it makes sense, and we'll understand why it looks funny. But if there is some shadiness and there is no information being told to you, and you're still gonna go into that turn because you're too emotionally, connected with this, well, I have to keep doing this, or I have to hold on to this. And look at this, Venus Jupiter aspect still going on of like keeping things and holding things instead of like really opening them up and really starting to also go, well, I'll only open what makes sense as far as my values and being met the same way, and that's worthy, and reciprocation of that back, that this turn will not be that crazy in your life. These choices will be much easier, especially with the moon that's supporting this in Aquarius with this awesome trine to the sun Mercury, but then the moon is going to square over to Uranus. There's a lot going on, folks. But what it is we are going to get the information that we understand, but it might be a radical, weird new world we're feeling. And so it might feel a little alone or scary because it's a new feeling, especially with the square to Uranus, but we have to understand that it is taking us to a better place and a better world, okay? So definitely, especially because, remember, the moon would much rather be over here in Uranus' home. This mutual reception thing is funky because it's not like a positive one, but the moon's exaltation, and it's not a full mutual reception, but the moon would rather be in Taurus exalted, and Uranus would rather be where the moon is in its home sign of Aquarius. This is another little underlying thing going on. So we are going into weird worlds that do not feel normally comfortable in, and we are having to be adaptable, but it makes sense to be in that world. Even though it'll feel like you're going through in this turn and in this world, like it is a little funky. Yeah, it is. Welcome to the 70s again of Chiron and Aries. Like, welcome again. At least, I always used to tell people, like, I wish I lived through the 70s. It's like, wait, I kind of am. We kind of are right now. So, but in a whole different way if you really want to go way deep. But, so Mars is going to be squaring Chiron. So, but if the information makes sense, and especially with the moon in Aquarius, with Mercury and Gemini, it is saying, like, yeah, I need communication. I need to understand. And if you're not getting that, and people are not giving you information, or situations just you're not getting it, especially as this weird aspect is continuing on with this Uranus-Neptune semi-square, yeah, no. And to not feel guilty or bad or that you're doing something wrong, we have to break through the shackles of us doing what we feel is required to do that's against our emotional needs, that is our human needs. That is our needs to be a true identity, a true self that is connected with information that makes sense and emotions that feel right. And even though it might not look like, whether it's a new job or whether it's a relationship situation or anything, it might not look like it. You know deep inside that you're going into territory you've never been before. That's Jupiter retrograde in Sag, with Mercury in its home sign of, in opposition now, of Gemini. We get the information with the sun, delivers it, but the sun loves Jupiter too. So the sun's now getting ready for its opposition to Jupiter, and it's starting to go, okay, we are going to go explore, aren't we? So we are like going to a place we've never been before, with the moon in Aquarius and trining over to Mercury and trining over the sun. We are literally going to a place we've never been before in our lives. We are like edging out our soul experience into uncharted territory. And that's what that turn is, because we have been getting close to the turn for over a year. This time last year was the buildup. It was the buildup of Mars and South Node. It was the buildup of Mars stoppage. It was the buildup to Mars then to the retrograde to go over the South Node. During eclipse time, by the way, with the lunar eclipse that came in July on top of that Mars retrograde. So we are head first into old past life energies of trying to make the turn, and it failed. Now this year, and even at the end of last year, we keep going to make this turn, and we're like, no, I'm going to back off. Oh, no, I'm going to back off. No, I'm going to see that. No, it didn't work. No. This is where commitment to the turn, you have the information, and if you don't have information, you don't go to that turn. You go to the one that makes sense, and you go to what doesn't feel deceptive or shady or anything, especially with all these crazy, weird, deceptive aspects all over the place. There's a lot of deception going on that you don't have to be part of. And it's simple. If you don't see the information there and you feel with your feelers, yeah, no. Friday, May 24th, we got the sun now 3 degrees. All right, so Mars is still squaring Chiron. This is going to be a couple-day thing where it's like getting through the growing pains emotionally and not throwing a Mars North Node temper tantrum like some little baby. Like, oh man, it doesn't look the way I want to. And with the moon in Aquarius, this is such a weird world. I can't, oh my gosh, it smells weird. It doesn't look, I'm not used to this. Have you tasted it yet? Venus is in Taurus. Coming off that semi-square, which is nice, getting ready for a sextile over to Neptune. And more importantly enough, with this moon, it is squaring over to Venus, saying, did you actually try it out? So it's kind of like going into a new restaurant and complaining, like, I don't like it, I don't like seafood, I'm at a seafood place, and not looking at the menu, number one, and then number two, actually looking at the menu and be like, well, actually, I do like that. Maybe I should, I'll try that, and then it'd be the best meal of your freaking life. It's the best way I could describe this turn. Uncharted territory, new places, being taken to a place you've never been before. And instead of crying like a baby about it and feeling alone about it, there is connections everywhere. I remember when I was a kid and I'd go to Bob's Big Boy as a kid, I would still be afraid, maybe it's by Chiron and Gemini, but I would like tell my mom to order for me. I think it wasn't until I was like 7 years old that I finally like started to say, yeah, I'll have the chicken fingers, please. You know what I mean? Like this kid's chicken fingers or the hamburger with just ketchup. Like, you know, this is kind of one of those moments where you got to go experience. And in relationships or in projects, you're in a new territory you've never been in before. So when it comes to financial aspects, when it comes to relationships, you know, this is definitely new territory, but if you communicate, if you understand that the data is that you're in a new place that you've never been before, and if you actually are adaptable and actually go try something new, which is very hard for the moon in Aquarius with a square to Venus in its home sign of Taurus. Very difficult. Very difficult. Because we are almost so set in, well, I only like it this way. Or I only like partners that are like this. Or I only like, you know, my financial situation and the way that I do my job and the way that I do my work like this. These are changes we're all ready to make. And these are positive changes. So don't be afraid of them. Basically is the point. All right, coming to Saturday here. Mars is finally off of this Chiron. Rah! So this weekend is a good weekend. Now, it's going to be a little bit like erratic and wild, I'll be honest with you, but I think that could be fun. So we got Mars at 6. It is done with the square to Chiron. All right, so we're kind of coming into this weekend to heal from our wounds a little bit. We are still in new territory, but this moon is sitting in its own no man's land. It is void off course. So Saturday is not going to feel like, I know it's Memorial Day weekend here in America. Saturday is just kind of going to be, okay, this is different. You might even be in a place and feel like, I don't know if I should be here. But go with it. Talk to people. Like, this is new emotional places you've never been before. And so allow yourself to go through those emotions and start to build confidence in yourself. Because Mars in Cancer, the positive of it is by going through certain emotions, we build our confidence as well. Instead of always looking at it as so negative and so weak, there's also through the emotion that we gain the confidence with especially the North Node in Cancer. Through experiencing emotions that we haven't had before. So that's a positive. And when we really look at this Sun-Mercury, I mean, look at already. This is Tuesday I'm doing this. By the time it's Saturday, Mercury's already at 9 degrees. I mean, we are jumping fast, which Mercury will be on Aldebaran, all right? And Mercury will be in exact opposition to Antares, the fixed stars here. The big red giant and the Archangel Michael, that's with the 7 sisters, okay? Now, this Mercury gets a lot of information here, especially if you understand Archangel Michael and you understand his role of keeping evil at bay? It's because with information of truth, we can keep evil at bay, which all evil is darkness, which is no light, just no information, or light that is hidden from us or not told to us. And so with this alignment here, we come into this epiphany of a very big thing about information. But when it opposes Antares, you know, there is this thing about this questionable, intense, you know, whether it's our belief or whether you want to look at it as the Scorpio part of Antares, because it's in the Scorpio system actually, not in tropical, that we actually are coming head to head with dark forces and what choice you made on your turn. Like, let's say you're in a situation with like a relationship or something, right? And you don't like it, but you choose to do it anyway. So then you go into this weekend and now you're sitting in the moon in Aquarius, void off course. Look at, there was no aspects to it, none. Look at that, nothing going on. And it's literally not hitting anything coming into the last degrees. It's a long moon, void off course. And you have Mercury now that is going to face off with Antares and be on Aldebaran and be like, am I looking straight at the darkness of this intensity where I'm not getting the truth or the information and I know what I was supposed to do, but I was too afraid and I chose not to take the turn? Am I missing out? Maybe, maybe not. I think that there's opportunities here, but I also think that this turn this week, you can feel it and you have to go through it. It's just something you have to do and you have to trust, because if you believe and you believe in things and you are open and you are flexible and you follow your true emotional feelings and you are real and you put all that out there, then you got nothing to lose. But if you did not say anything, Archangel Michael is going to call you out like, why have not you spoke? Why have you not done what's here? I need information. That foot on the devil's face, on Lucifer's face, is Aldebaran being like, you did not give me information here. So you don't want to spend this Saturday in a really weird space because you chose not to make a turn to what you know is better in your life by going into a place of no information or shady information, or because you're afraid. So it's better to try and control your life by staying away and restricting yourself from the beauty of Gemini, which is to go, the two twins that go out and seek the understanding of the world, with Mars in Cancer that actually is trying to gain new confidence through feelings that feel right, with Uranus and Taurus of a new skill set, new values, new experiences that we have never felt and actually tasted or put into our senses before. But if you're going to just go backwards, and because you want it to look the way that you want to, and you're going to put your ego in control, and you're going to restrict your energy back, well, good luck. Sunday, May 26th, we got that Sun, Mercury. Look at how fast. Mercury's already at 11. But with this 5 degree here, now we have the Sun in Chiron. So Sunday, with the Moon squaring the Sun, this creates either circus energy in the positive way. I've always thought of a moon. Like, I'm even giving you guys little feet here. You know, like, it's okay, like, whoa, we got Neptune here, we got Jupiter, there's a lot going on, all right? There's some mutable energy that comes in now, right? When you had Mercury in its home sign, you had a moon in Pisces. That's where things get neurotic, when there's no information, because it feels deceptive, or this is where things start to come out. And with Mars now, that's been on this, you know, crazy thing, it's going, oh gosh, I am coming into Rahu, I am coming into the opposition. Holy cow, and this is where we start questioning our choices. This is where we start to go, did I make the right choice? Like, oh my gosh, because what? Well, the Moon in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces, starts to doubt our mind effects because we start to go and start to feel like guilty, or are we sinners, or are we this? So anybody projecting any sinner energy on you, or projecting anything, or just feeling like your soul is in this place of like, well, I'm still confused about why it had to be that, keep going back to the logic. It's connected to Chiron. Sun, Gemini, Chiron, Aries. You are identifying the weird feelings by looking at the data and not emotionally getting lost in your own subconscious patterns of wanting to self-sabotage this amazing new turn that you made. That's what it is. You want to self-sabotage. You want to go easier. It's much easier too. You want to be comfortable. But not comfortable as in the feel-good comfortable, but the comfortable as in like, well, I've already had it before. I've already tasted it. Let me just go back and get out of that new restaurant. Let me go back to McDonald's. I know what a Big Mac tastes like. And even though it's not the best, like, at least I know what I'm getting. This is all about exploring. This is all about experiencing, going to places that you've never done this before. So these are subconscious patterns that are going to come up extremely, and whether or not you, where that turn took you. And so maybe at this point, this is where when the moon squares the sun and the moon squares Mercury and Gemini, and then we come into this weird aspect, which is good though, with the sun and Chiron. It's like, are we going to create this understanding, this new environment, and this new identity that might not look what we're used to? You know, maybe we are starting a new project that we've never done before. It'd be like me, you know, as an astrologer, and I used to do boats going into roofing. Might feel really weird, but maybe, I don't know, you know what I mean? Or in a relationship, being with somebody that you've never been with before or something. Like, oh, I don't know, I've never been on a date with someone like this. Or in your relationship, we've never been here before. We've never discussed these things before. We've never actually gone down this road before. We've never dealt with these circumstances. Is there something wrong or whatever? Like, or, you know, like there's a way to look at this from a lot of different angles. But it's about not trying to go backwards into this past of self-sabotaging, because it's much easier to play a victim role with Chiron, especially this week with Mars. So this is where victims, energetically, spiritually, subconsciously stuff just start to get thrown out. I'm a victim. I'm a victim. I'm a victim. When it's like, are we really victims? Sure, we've had bad experiences in life. We've all been victims. But are we going to identify as ourselves as a victim? I mean, I've been a victim to people stealing my bike. Somebody stole my freaking Beats headphones. You know what I mean? I've been a victim. And I know that there's going to be people in the comments being like, oh my God, I've been do way worse. Yeah, I have too. We're not here. We're not in Scorpio land anymore. Like, we're in Taurus land. Let's talk about some good stuff here. Let's talk about some really interesting, powerful things about making a better, feel-good life. Let's not be victims anymore to past circumstances. Let's not twist the facts that we already know by going into the past. Because the past is going to twist what is now. So on Monday, when we start this out of this, and this is Memorial Day, here we go. Venus has now made it halfway to 15 degrees of Taurus, which I think is interesting because it's exactly trine. Oh, that's not it. Let me. I like that, Apple. You know, you figured things out. Okay. The sun is going to trine over to the 15 degree spot, or Venus is going to, of where the last solar eclipse was. We've got the sun at 6. It's off now, Chiron. We got Mercury at 13. Now, this is kind of an interesting, weird spot here because Mars at 7 is not really making any aspects. So Mars, sure, it's in square to Chiron still. So it's still not looking fully the way we might be used to, but by going into it, one thing about Chiron is when you absorb and you go into it, and maybe it's not the way you've always looked at it, but there is something that feels right about there, and you go into it and you absorb it and you make it part of yourself and you go in there, man, could actually be the most liberating, healing, identity, emotional feeling of your life. But I think that this Monday really is going to be a wonderful thing. Now, the moon on Neptune, though, is going to be squaring over to this Jupiter while we have Mercury and the sun. And so there still is a kind of chaotic understanding of like, this feeling of coming into this Monday, even though it's a holiday in America, of like, are we really going to go backwards still? Are we really going to just purge the past? I think that this is about purging the past. Just emotionally going, you know what? This is my soul. This is what the data says to me, so my soul can understand, because I can't just rely on just pure intuition. We do have a brain. We do have a higher brain with Jupiter about understanding the more data and putting our own meaning behind it, putting our own belief systems. And so this is going to be a weekend of where we can release all of the past as we made the turn to step into this next week coming up, where we truly come into confronting our deepest fears, because we are in new territory. Or by the end of this week, you have chosen to not go into new territory, and you have chosen to sit into the craziness of the past and keep reliving it and keep staying in that place and having to face that, because maybe you were afraid of emotionally going into new places. So you would rather hold on to a place you don't like, that you hate, that almost feels like you're a slave to, with Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn, the South Node. That's actually not taking you to where you really want to go. And with Saturn and Pluto, especially with that South Node, you need to remember that this is a Tower card energy. Like with the South Node there, it's like, what if the integrity is, yes, it was of integrity before. It's like a building, but the fucking beams are breaking. Like the roof's coming down. Maybe that's why I'm going to get into roofing after this. No, I'm just kidding. But it's like, there's that whole aspect of like, it's okay to let go of that part of the road. It also might not mean that you're losing your whole road. But it's okay to, I don't want to use the word destroy, but it's okay to put an end to situations that don't make sense on the long term for our emotional need, and go into this new space and continue on the road. And that's integrity. Integrity is staying on the road, but if there's a block, and especially it's an emotional block, and especially if it's an information block, especially if it's a block that you just keep going through the same times over and over and over and over again, why? You would be doing yourself a disservice. You would be doing yourself a disharmony to your integrity and your ethical and moral standards about your own soul's journey, especially as Neptune is lining back up with Saturn here, which is coming in this next week, of our spiritual quest, which I've been talking about for over a year, a couple years now. That Neptune and Saturn, if we can look real quick, Craig, at this. So this Neptune, Saturn, look at that, within 1 degree. Saturn in its home sign. Oh, they want me to use a pen. Saturn in its home sign, Neptune in its home sign. So guess what? Bing, bang, boom. We are coming back into that spiritual journey and that spiritual alignment. Why do you think this turn is happening this week? Do you really want to go into the spiritual quest next week that's finally back to realignment, with bringing in baggage with the moon in Pisces and Neptune and squares to the sun and Mercury and all that stuff? Do you really want to go through that? Do you really want to go through your fear because it might not look the way that you want to, because you're just like lazy? Mars and Cancer can be lazy. Oh, I'm too lazy. It doesn't look the way I want to. And oh, there's Uranus and Taurus. It's going to require me to like actually have a better life, because I'm going to have to do new skills I've never tried before. And with the moon in Aquarius, trying all this stuff, but square Uranus, and this is a weird new world, and I have never tasted that before, and I've never tried that before, and I got to try something I've never tried before. There's like, come on. It was weird. My ear just rang right there, like loud. Which, I've done this show for years. I've done many shows, but I've never had it just go, what? That this is the turn to either the future or the past. And if you want to get to paradise, it's in the future. It's not in the past. And it's about information, conversation, and no shadiness. And raw truth is information and light. And do not if anybody is trying to hold information from you or can't just be real or just can't put it out there, you know that is shady. There's a lot of shadiness. Moon over Pluto, Saturn, South Node. Moon over Neptune. Uranus, semi-square Neptune. Mars, square Chiron. That's not too deceptive, but it's deceptive of yourself for going, well, I don't like the way that it looks, but I'm too afraid to emotionally go through it. And Jupiter is going through its square to Neptune again. So, and with Saturn on the South Node, sextiling over to Neptune, we can be easily persuaded into thinking that this is a right road because of some sort of integrity, with Pluto right there secretly going like, tell them this. It's like in the earpieces of news anchors today, like, tell them that, tell them that, tell them that, yeah, tell them that, yeah, to get whatever they want from you, to pull on your emotions, to pull on you. And if you're not getting the real information and it feels like, well, there's a lot of funky information that's not being told to me here, don't get mystified this weekend, or even through this whole week, but especially by this weekend, into going all the way back when this is a Mars North node to go forward. If you guys missed yesterday, Deep Love Tarot, which is my new show for this kind of show, but with tarot, where I go through all 12 signs and all signs, just check it out. It's on my YouTube. It was on Monday, it was released. Then, of course, my daily videos, my daily weekly my weekly horoscopes, my daily tarot, my 12 sun sign horoscopes. And we've got 8 other people doing daily videos and weekly videos every day. Check it out, highvibe.tv. The Android app's out. And I just got the notification that the Apple iPhone is approved, but I have not pushed go yet because the Apple TV version got denied because they need to add something, and they're coming out this week. So, but you go to HighVibe TV anyway if you want to subscribe. Go to highvibe.tv, 7-day free trial. Also, my Confronting Your Fear video into Paradise. This will help you understand because I just gave you this. This is just for this week. If you think this week was crazy with it, look at that Saturn-Neptune. Look at what's coming up with Mars coming in the opposition to this point. Mars, North Node, Mars, Mercury, a lot of things going on. Venus as well, coming into Gemini, all in the next 30 days. And Mercury leaving Gemini and coming into Cancer. Gonna get more emotional, gonna get more weird, gonna get more crazy. So we need to make sure that we make this turn. You can find that out now at highvibe.tv. Click on catalog, click on author, the Leo King. You'll see this video with this image on there. And it will definitely help you. It's a 75-minute video in the studio just like this, just focused on how to get you through these major moments and changes. Thanks so much for all your support. Truly appreciate all your support for highvibe.tv and for this show and for me. Please share it to as many people as you can, and we will see you hopefully tomorrow on highvibe.tv.